Hey everybody, it's Amy here. This week's topic is cooking with essential oils. This is something that I'm still learning about as I go. I think it's kind of a process and you have to be kind of creative about it, but it's a great thing to learn about. So I'm excited to share more about that with you today. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay, so cooking with essential oils. The plan for today, we're going to talk about internal use. Obviously, if you're cooking with oils and using them to flavor what you're eating, you're going to be taking them internally. So I want to take advantage of this opportunity to talk about taking oils internally. Why would you cook with oils? There are some obvious benefits to cooking with them. Tips about cooking with oils. I have a couple of slides about that because there's some different tips that I think would be really helpful. And then I put together a recipe book that has some of my favorite recipes in it and some that I haven't made before, but they kind of looked interesting to me. So I've got that all together for you, as well as some recommended resources that you can download. All right, internal use. This is kind of a hot topic, but here we go. Here goes nothing. Okay, so if you think about it, we're using and eating fresh plants, dried herbs, etc., and they have essential oils in them, and a lot of the kinds of things that we're eating. So fresh aromatic plants normally contain 1 to 2% by weight of essential oils. And obviously, there's a huge difference in potency that we're talking about here. We are not comparing apples to apples, but we are getting a certain amount of essential oils when we're eating, fresh plants and even dried herbs. So I think it's important to bring that into consideration. I wanted to say that, I often say this in a class, but essential oils are 50 to 70 times more powerful than herbs. So there's a very big difference. Taking an oil internally is definitely the most potent way to take an essential oil. It's extremely effective. Essential oils are fat soluble, so they're going to all our organs, they're going to our brain. It's a very effective way to be taking your essential oils. Proper dosage is super important, and I have kind of a chart with some guidelines on that for you, but you've got to use your brain on that. So proper dosage, you want to make sure you're taking an appropriate amount. So is it safe? Well, modern research, as well as internal use by hundreds of thousands of users over many years, would indicate that yes, it is safe when you use it appropriately and when you, again, have common sense. So I do think it is a safe way to take essential oils. doTERRA essential oils I wouldn't take because I'm sure of the purity of these oils. I'm confident to take enough to take them internally. Here are just a couple links to some articles that talk more in depth about what that looks like. One that's really interesting is the second link is all about how people say if you take an oil internally, one of the arguments is that it's going to damage the mucosa and the lining of especially your digestive tract. And evidence is showing that it's actually restorative and regenerative and helpful. So that's really interesting. Okay, so next, before I pull this up, I'm going to pull up a meme here, and I'm just going to warn you, it's a little snarky. And I don't mean it to be snarky. I think memes by their very nature tend to be a little snarky, so you'll have to excuse me, but I think if we step back, it's an appropriate topic to be discussing. So let me get this straight. You'll eat fast food, drink neon sports drinks, and clean with toxic chemicals, but you need to do more research before you try essential oils. I've honestly had ladies come in with, somebody come into a class with like a huge Mountain Dew and sit there and they won't try the lemon water though, because it could be an issue. So at some point to me, it does get a little humorous. The things that we don't question at all that we're eating and using, there's like research that shows that it is harmful to us. There's a statistic that 200 people die every day from correctly prescribed, correctly taken prescription medication every day. So that's a lot of people. And so on the flip side, if you talk about essential oils, in the last 100 years, there have been 5 deaths due to essential oils, and they were all intentional. People were intentionally trying to harm themselves by using them inappropriately. So never in the last 100 years has anyone used essential oils in the correct way and died from it. Again, treat them with respect, but I just wanted to kind of pull back and look at that issue a little bit. If you're at the end of the day not comfortable taking essential oils internally, then that's okay. You should use it the way that you feel most comfortable. But my personal opinion is that I think it's appropriate when done correctly. This is the chart that I was talking about that talks about proper dosage amounts. So internally here for an adult, you can see you're looking at 2 to 4 drops. And then 24-hour max is 12 to 24 drops. And then for a child, 1 to 2 drops. And then 24-hour max is 3 to 12 drops. So for a child, that's like 6+ to me, in my opinion. So this is kind of handy. You know, it talks about other ways too, but I thought maybe that would be a helpful visual. How do you know if you can take an oil internally? Well, you can look in a reference book, but if you don't have a reference book or app handy, you can actually look at the bottle. So on the back of the bottle, there'll be a supplement facts label right here. If you can take it internally, and here this doesn't, so you can't take it internally. So you can look at the bottle, which is also super convenient. Why would you use essential oils for cooking? So there really are some benefits. You're going to add really great flavor and spice. It's going to be very intense, very unique. We talked about how they're just way more concentrated than herbs. And I oftentimes think about sometimes how long maybe a spice or an herb has been sitting around in my house. And so it can be very nice to reach for an essential oil in that case. They are affordable. So if you think about a citrus oil, so it's about 5 to 6 cents per drop, and 1 to 3 drops of a citrus oil is going to equal the zest from a whole fruit. And then for an herb, 6 to 12 cents a drop is usually about how much it costs. And when you think of a whole bunch of herbs could cost $5, $6, and even upwards. I just feel like I'm a little tired of buying a bunch of cilantro and you only have 3 days to use it and then it goes bad. And so I think it's nice to cut down on waste as well. Or maybe you buy something and you know only need the zest and you don't want something to go to waste. It's very, very convenient. You're not spending time chopping or grating or anything. You can oftentimes just add your drop or use your toothpick and swirl that around and you're good to go. You can use them year-round, especially here in northern Wisconsin. There's a lot of herbs that I would love to cook with year-round, but they're kind of hard to get or they're very expensive to get. Or there might be something like bergamot is great in things, but I don't even know where I would buy that around here. So it's very nice to be able to use my essential oils. And it's pure flavor naturally extracted from the plant. So I'm not worrying about any fillers, anything else that might be in the oils. The doTERRA certified pure therapeutic grade oils are like beyond organic. There's no pesticides, there's nothing harmful added in. Oftentimes when we're using maybe a traditional flavoring agent or extract, there's something else that's been added in. So we don't have to worry about that with our essential oils. And you think about the added health benefits that you're getting from using your essential oils as well. So it's just a win-win to me. Here's some tips for cooking with oils. First of all, some helpful tools that you might want to have on hand: a syringe or a dropper. Every oil has a very different viscosity. Some come out very quickly, some come out more slowly. So to be able to kind of control the amount of oil you're putting in is very nice. You could also just be sure to put your oils on a spoon before you mix it in, so then you have some control over how much is being added in. A toothpick, you've got to have a toothpick on hand because they are so potent. You sometimes are just using a toothpick size amount. So you can either, you're going to dip the toothpick inside the bottle of essential oil and don't double dip. And then you can either, some recipes will call for a dip of essential oil. That's how little you need. And some will call for a swirl. So toothpicks are really, really, you got to have those on hand. So you're going to want to dilute, and you're probably like, what? I thought we only diluted when we used oils topically. But it's good to also dissolve the oils in some kind of a lipid, a fat, so you can spread it throughout the dish evenly. And so if you're doing a savory dish, like olive oil or even coconut oil is good. If it's a sweet dish, maybe honey or maple syrup. You could use milk, almond milk, or anything like that. So it's good to mix your oils with that first before adding it to your dish. Baking versus cooking. If you're baking, you're going to keep in mind that you'll be using more oil than you would be if you were cooking. So I might only use 2 to 3 toothpick swirls of oregano and spaghetti sauce, but if I'm going to bake bread, I'm probably going to maybe use 2 to 3 drops. So there's definitely a difference there. And always start small. Okay, you can always add more, but you can't take any essential oil out. So this is the face when you add too much oil in your recipe. And everybody's been there, everybody's done it. Maybe you've done it a couple times, but just remember to start small. Some more tips for you. There's lots of variations when it comes to cooking with oils. So the number of drops you're going to use could depend on what oil you're using. When are you adding it during the recipe? What are you preparing? What kind of food or beverage are you preparing? The strength of the oil, and even taste preference. So there's not exactly an exact science to this. You kind of have to be willing to experiment and see what works for you. Are you adding it at the end versus the beginning? Typically, it's better to add towards the end and use smaller amounts. And especially when the food has cooled is good, because heat can not only affect the therapeutic benefits of the oil, but cause it to evaporate more quickly. But there are some exceptions if you're going to be using a stronger oil like basil, marjoram, thyme, oregano, or rosemary. You might want to add those in a little earlier in the recipe so they have a little bit of time to cook off and be more mild. Keep in mind that the longer an oil is in a recipe, the stronger it's going to taste. It's almost like it's steep. So if you're making a food or a beverage that's going to sit for a couple days before you, or a day before you serve it, don't add the oils when you prepare the dish. Add it, an hour or two before you serve it. And I have even more tips for you. It's good to know what part of the plant the oil came from. So if you are using citrus oils, they're pressed from the peel. So you can substitute them for the zest, but not necessarily the juice. You're going to want to use glass or stainless steel when you're cooking because, as we know, essential oils don't really mix well, especially citrus oils, with plastics. It's good to keep your oils away from heat, light, and humid conditions to help maintain a long shelf life, so be good to your oils. You can refrigerate or store them in the refrigerator if you'd like to do that. Always remember to recap your bottles. Don't leave them uncapped for a long amount of time because, again, they evaporate quickly. So get those caps back on. And one other tip would be an herb spray. So maybe you want a subtle hint of herbs on something that you've made, so you can actually make a spray and then maybe spray, your French fries or your bread or whatever it is. So with a 4-ounce glass spray bottle, a few drops of whatever essential oil you'd like, 1/8 a cup of olive oil and water, and that will be your little spray. So those are just some tips for you. So here at this link, this is going to take you to my website where you can download the free recipe book and you can check out some of my recommended resources. Okay. So that's all I have. I don't think it's not rocket science. You kind of just have to go do it. You kind of have to, put some bottles of oil in your kitchen that you think you might use often. And, if you ordered the Sensational Flavors kit, put that in your kitchen and look up some recipes, look in the recipe book I put together, or look on Pinterest, order one of the recipe books that I recommend. But you kind of just have to start somewhere. And I think it is a really fun process, and it's really fun to be able to flavor your food in such amazing ways. So I hope that is helpful to you. I hope maybe you'll go try something new for your family. And remember, everybody kind of makes a mistake once or twice. It's a learning curve. But I hope that you have a lot of fun with it and that it's a new way for you to use your oils.